The laughter echoed across the shooting range when Staff Sergeant Evelyn Jackson picked up the M24 sniper rifle. At 32 years old, with auburn hair pulled back in a regulation bun and calm green eyes that never wavered, she'd heard variations of this mockery her entire military career. "Maybe try something lighter, ma'am," one recruit suggested with barely suppressed laughter. "That M24's got a kick that'll knock you on your ass." His buddies snickered, watching the woman they assumed was just another support staff pretending to be a shooter. What they didn't know, and what they were about to learn the hard way when the base commander walked through that door, was that Evelyn Jackson held every long-range shooting record on the base, had 47 confirmed kills across 3 combat deployments, and was the sniper instructor who'd trained half the special operations community. When she calmly chambered around and prepared to show these recruits what a real marksman looked like, she had no idea their commander was about to make an entrance that would turn their mockery into the most educational moment of their military careers. Staff Sergeant Evelyn Jackson had been a sniper for 11 years, but she'd learned long ago that walking into a shooting range in regular fatigues meant starting from zero in most people's assumptions. She didn't wear her instructor credentials. She didn't announce her record. She just showed up to do her job, which today meant evaluating the newest class of recruits who thought they knew something about long-range shooting. The range officer, a young sergeant named Martinez who was new to the base, had handed her the clipboard. "Ma'am, we've got 12 recruits claiming they're qualified marksmen. Some of them are pretty cocky about it. They need proper evaluation before they can move to advanced training." Evelyn had nodded and walked toward the firing line where 12 recruits were assembled, all male, all in their early 20s, all carrying the confident swagger of soldiers who'd qualified with rifles in basic training and thought that made them snipers. When she picked up the M24 sniper rifle from the equipment rack to demonstrate proper handling, the mockery had started immediately. "Whoa, Sarge, you sure you can handle that?" one recruit called out, a muscular kid with a Texas drawl whose name tape read Cooper. "That's a precision weapon, requires upper body strength and recoil management." Another recruit, smaller but equally confident, added, "Yeah, maybe stick with the M4, ma'am. The M24's got a 7-pound trigger pull, requires pretty strong fingers." Evelyn remained calm, her expression neutral. She'd been through this exact scenario dozens of times. "Thank you for your concern. I think I can manage." She began checking the weapon with practiced efficiency, examining the barrel, checking the bolt action, verifying the scope mounting. Every movement was precise, professional, revealing familiarity that should have made them reconsider their assumptions. But Recruit Cooper wasn't done. "Seriously though, Sarge, no offense, but that rifle's probably got more combat experience than you. Maybe let one of us demonstrate proper technique." His buddies laughed. Martinez, the range officer, looked uncomfortable but didn't intervene. He was outranked and probably figured the sergeant could handle some recruit banter. Evelyn finished her inspection and turned to face the group. The M24 sniper weapon system fires 7.62 by 51 mm NATO rounds with an effective range of 800 meters. The rifle weighs 12.1 pounds loaded. The trigger pull is indeed 7 pounds. The scope is a Leupold Mark IV with 10 times magnification. Anyone disagree with those specifications? The recruits exchanged glances. She clearly knew the technical details, but Cooper wasn't backing down. "Book knowledge is great, Sarge, but shooting this weapon in actual conditions is different. Takes experience most support personnel don't have." The implication was clear. He thought she was support staff, probably administrative, definitely not a real shooter. Evelyn decided to handle this the way she always did. Let the rifle do the talking. "I'll make you a deal," she said calmly. "I'll demonstrate with this M24. Then each of you will attempt the same shots. We'll see who has more actual experience. Fair?" Cooper grinned, confident. "Fair. What's the challenge?" 3 shots, 300 meters, 600 meters, and 800 meters, different targets, different conditions, standard qualification course. "And when we outshoot you?" Evelyn smiled slightly, the kind of smile that should have warned them they'd made a terrible miscalculation. "Then I'll recommend all of you for advanced sniper training immediately." But when I outshoot you, you run the obstacle course in full gear. Twice. Deal?" The recruits agreed immediately, completely confident in their abilities and completely ignorant of who they were challenging. Evelyn moved to the firing line. The first target was at 300 meters, a standard distance for infantry marksmen. She settled into shooting position, controlled her breathing, and fired. The shot was perfect, dead center of the target. The recruits weren't particularly impressed. 300 meters was within their qualification range. They'd hit that too. "Lucky shot," Cooper muttered, though with slightly less confidence. The second target was at 600 meters. This was beyond standard infantry qualification, into the realm of designated marksmen and snipers. Wind was picking up, about 8 miles per hour from the east, which would affect bullet trajectory. Evelyn made a minor adjustment to her scope, accounting for wind drift and bullet drop. She fired, another perfect center hit. Now the recruits were quieter. 600 meters with wind compensation wasn't luck. That was skill. The third target was at 800 meters, the extreme effective range of the M24, and a shot that required expert-level understanding of ballistics, environmental factors, and rifle capabilities. Evelyn took her time. She observed wind indicators downrange, calculated the necessary holdover for bullet drop, and adjusted her breathing to the natural respiratory pause where her body was most stable. She fired. The spotting scope confirmed what she already knew. Another perfect center, hit at 800 meters. The range had gone completely silent. 12 recruits who'd been laughing minutes earlier were now staring at 3 targets, all showing perfect center hits at increasing distances under varying conditions. Cooper found his voice first. That's professional sniper-level shooting." "Yes," Evelyn replied simply. "It is." "Now, who's first?" Over the next hour, all 12 recruits attempted the same 3 shots. The best of them, Cooper, ironically, managed to hit the 300-meter target center and get close on the 600-meter shot, but missed the 800-meter target entirely. Most of them couldn't even get consistent hits at 600 meters. As they finished, looking dejected and facing the promised double obstacle course run, the range door opened. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Blake walked in, the base commander, a no-nonsense officer with 25 years of service and a reputation for excellence. Behind him was a 3-star general that Evelyn recognized immediately, General Robert Morrison, who commanded all sniper training programs for the U.S. Army. The recruits immediately snapped to attention. Martinez, the range officer, looked nervous. He hadn't known senior officers were coming. "At ease," Colonel Blake said, then looked at Evelyn. "Sergeant Jackson, I see you're running the new recruit evaluation." "Yes, sir." "Just finished the qualification shoot." General Morrison walked to the spotting scope, examining the targets. His eyebrows rose as he saw the 3 perfect hits at 300, 600, and 800 meters. "Whose shots are these?" "Mine, sir," Evelyn replied. Morrison looked at the recruits, then back at Evelyn, then at the targets again. A small smile crossed his face. "Did you gentlemen know who you were shooting against?" The recruits looked confused. Cooper spoke up. "Sir, we were just doing our qualification evaluation with the sergeant, sir." "With Sergeant Jackson," Morrison corrected. "Did she introduce herself properly?" "Just said she was running our evaluation, sir." Morrison turned to Evelyn. "Sergeant Jackson, these young men seem unaware of who you are. Would you mind if I provided some context?" Evelyn shrugged slightly. "Your call, sir." Morrison addressed the recruits directly. "Gentlemen, let me tell you about Staff Sergeant Evelyn Jackson. She holds every long-range shooting record on this base, some of which have stood for over 8 years. She has 47 confirmed kills across 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. She's qualified as a Special Operations Sniper Instructor, which means she's trained Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, and Delta Force operators. She's won the International Sniper Competition twice, beating shooters from 15 different countries, including some who'd been snipers since before she was born. He paused, letting that sink in, then continued. "But here's the most important thing you need to know about Sergeant Jackson. She's the best sniper I've ever commanded in my 30 years of military service. Her understanding of ballistics, environmental factors, and marksmanship fundamentals is at a level most shooters never achieve. And you just mocked her for picking up an M24. The recruits' faces had gone from confused to mortified. Cooper looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him. Morrison wasn't done. I came to this base specifically to observe Sergeant Jackson's training methods because we're updating the entire Army sniper curriculum based on her techniques. The reason half of our special operations snipers are as effective as they are is because she trained them or trained their trainers. So when you suggested she let one of you demonstrate proper technique, you were essentially telling one of the world's best marksmen that she should learn from basic infantry recruits. The silence was profound. Even Martinez, the range officer, looked stunned. He'd had no idea who Evelyn actually was. Colonel Blake added, "Sergeant Jackson doesn't advertise her credentials. She believes shooters should prove themselves through performance, not reputation. But I think today's demonstration made her capabilities pretty clear." Evelyn remained at ease, her expression neutral, not enjoying their embarrassment but not sympathizing with it either. This was a teaching moment, and they needed to learn. General Morrison turned to her. "Sergeant Jackson, I'm here because we need to discuss your next assignment. But first, I'd like to see you run these recruits through the advanced course. Show them what real sniper training looks like." "Yes, sir. Happy to do that." Morrison looked at the recruits. "You gentlemen are about to receive world-class instruction from one of the best in the world. I suggest you pay attention. The obstacle course punishment can wait. This is more important." Over the next 3 hours, Evelyn conducted a masterclass in long-range shooting. She explained the physics of bullet trajectory, the effects of temperature and humidity on ballistics, the proper breathing techniques for stable shooting, and the mental discipline required for precision marksmanship. The recruits, chastened by their earlier mockery, paid attention with an intensity they'd probably never shown before. They watched her shoot, studied her techniques, and began to understand the massive gap between basic marksmanship and true sniper-level precision. She demonstrated shots they'd thought impossible, hitting targets at 1,000 meters, adjusting for crosswinds that changed mid-flight, compensating for elevation differences, and even the Coriolis effect on extreme-range shots. Cooper, who'd been the most vocal mocker, asked a question during a break. "Sergeant Jackson, ma'am, how did you get this good?" "I mean, I've been shooting since I was 12, and I'm nowhere near your level." Evelyn considered the question seriously. Experience matters, but it's not just time. It's deliberate practice focused on understanding every variable that affects your shot. Most shooters practice until they can hit the target. Professional snipers practice until they can hit the exact same point on the target repeatedly under any conditions. That requires understanding physics, meteorology, and ballistics at a level most people don't bother with, she continued. But there's something else more important than technical knowledge. It's the mindset. When people underestimate you because you're female or young or don't fit their image of what a sniper should be, you have two choices: get angry and defensive, or use it as motivation to be so undeniably excellent that their assumptions become irrelevant. I chose the second option. Another recruit asked, "Ma'am, do you still get people who don't take you seriously, even with your record?" "All the time," Evelyn replied honestly. "I walk into ranges or training facilities regularly where people assume I'm administrative staff or maybe a decent hobbyist shooter. It used to frustrate me. Now I see it as an opportunity to teach a lesson about judging capability based on performance rather than appearance." General Morrison, who'd been observing the training, spoke up. "And that's exactly why we're updating the curriculum based on Sergeant Jackson's approach. She teaches shooters to focus on measurable performance, grouping size, consistency under various conditions, effectiveness at range, instead of subjective assessments based on strength, size, or gender. Her students outperform traditionally trained snipers because they learn the fundamentals so thoroughly that physical differences become irrelevant." By the end of the session, the recruits had a completely different understanding of marksmanship, and a profound respect for the quiet sergeant they'd mocked hours earlier. As they prepared to leave, Cooper approached Evelyn. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology. The things I said earlier about you not being able to handle the M24, about not having experience, I was completely out of line. You're the most skilled shooter I've ever seen, and I'm sorry I judged you based on stupid assumptions." Evelyn nodded, accepting the apology. Use this as a learning experience. In the military and in life, people will constantly make assumptions about your capabilities based on how you look, where you're from, or who they think you should be. Prove them wrong through performance. Let your results speak louder than their assumptions. The other recruits echoed Cooper's apology. They'd learned a hard lesson about respect, capability, and the danger of underestimating people based on appearance. After they left to run their promised obstacle course, Morrison had decided they still needed that reminder. The general asked Evelyn to join him and Colonel Blake in the briefing room. "Sergeant Jackson," Morrison began, "your demonstration today reminded me why I came here. We need you at Fort Benning as the lead instructor for the new advanced sniper training program. You'd be training not just Army snipers, but cross-service students from Marines, Navy, and Air Force. Essentially, you'd be shaping the future of military marksmanship." Evelyn felt both honored and hesitant. "Sir, I appreciate the opportunity, but I should mention, I've received similar offers before, and there's always institutional resistance. Some senior instructors don't like the idea of a female lead instructor. Some students show up with the same attitudes those recruits had today. It's exhausting constantly proving yourself to people who should be focused on learning." Morrison leaned forward. "I won't lie to you. You're right. There will be resistance. There will be students and instructors who need attitude adjustments. But that's exactly why we need you in this position. The students who are professional enough to focus on learning will get world-class instruction. The ones who aren't will either adapt or fail. Either outcome improves the force." Colonel Blake added, "Evelyn, you've been proving yourself for 11 years. At some point, the burden shouldn't be on you to justify your position. It should be on others to meet your standards. This assignment puts you in a position to set those standards force-wide." Evelyn considered. They were right. She'd spent her entire career proving herself to skeptics. Taking this position meant she could shape training in a way that focused on capability over demographics, on performance over assumptions. "I'll do it, sir. But on one condition." "What's that?" "Every student who shows up with the attitude that females can't shoot, that size determines capability, or that marksmanship is about strength rather than skill. They get the exact same treatment those recruits got today. I demonstrate, they attempt, and when they fail, they learn the lesson properly." Morrison smiled. "I wouldn't have it any other way." 3 months later, Evelyn was at Fort Benning, standing in front of her first class of advanced sniper students. The class of 30 included Army, Marines, Navy SEALs, and Air Force, all experienced marksmen who'd been selected for advanced training. As she introduced herself, she could see the familiar expressions, some respectful, some curious, and yes, some skeptical. A Marine staff sergeant in the front row was barely suppressing a smirk. Evelyn decided to address it head on. "I can see some of you have questions about your instructor. Let me save us all time. Yes, I'm your lead instructor. Yes, I'm female. Yes, I'm probably smaller than most of you. No, that doesn't affect my ability to teach you to be better snipers. Any questions?" The Marine raised his hand. "Ma'am, no disrespect, but most of us have significant combat experience. What makes you qualified to teach us?" It was a fair question, professionally asked, so Evelyn gave a professional answer. "I have 11 years as a sniper, 3 combat deployments, 47 confirmed kills, multiple competition wins including international championships, and I've trained over 200 special operations snipers, but credentials don't matter as much as results. So here's the deal. At the end of this course, you'll shoot better than you do now, or the training failed. Judge me by your improvement, not by my resume." She paused, then added, "However, if anyone has concerns about female instructors, small-statured shooters, or any other demographic issues, voice them now. Because once we start training, the only thing that matters is performance, mine and yours." No one spoke up. The Marine nodded, seemingly satisfied. Over the next 12 weeks, Evelyn pushed the class harder than they'd ever been pushed. She taught them advanced ballistics, environmental compensation techniques, shooting positions they'd never considered, and mental discipline that separated good shooters from exceptional ones. She also demonstrated every single technique herself, not just explaining but showing. When she taught extreme range shooting, she hit targets at 1,500 meters. When she taught shooting from unstable positions, she made impossible shots while perched on vehicle hoods or leaning around barriers. When she taught quick target acquisition, she engaged multiple targets faster than students thought possible. The skeptics became believers. The believers became exceptional shooters. And the entire class learned that capability had nothing to do with size, gender, or strength. It was about knowledge, practice, and mental discipline. The Marine Staff Sergeant who'd questioned her credentials approached her in week 10. "Ma'am, I need to say something. When this course started, I had doubts. I'd never had a female instructor for anything combat-related, and I wasn't sure how effective it would be." "I was wrong. You're the best instructor I've ever had, better than my scout sniper instructors, better than the civilian competition shooters I've trained with. You've made me a significantly better shooter, and more importantly, you've changed how I think about marksmanship." "Thank you." Evelyn appreciated his honesty. "The fact that you had doubts but stayed professional and focused on learning, that's exactly the right approach. Use this experience when you're back with your unit. Judge Marines by their performance, not your assumptions. You'll build a better force that way." By the end of the course, all 30 students had improved dramatically. Their average effective range had increased by 200 meters. Their consistency had improved by 40%. Their understanding of ballistics and environmental factors had reached levels that usually took years to develop. General Morrison attended the graduation, observing the final qualification shoots. As he watched Evelyn's students perform, demonstrating skills that exceeded traditional sniper training outcomes, he pulled her aside. "Sergeant Jackson, I've been watching military marksmanship training for 3 decades. This class is performing at a level I've rarely seen. You've proven that your methods work across all service branches, all experience levels." "How do you do it?" Evelyn thought carefully before answering. "Sir, I teach fundamentals so thoroughly that physical advantages become irrelevant. A 6'4" muscular male and a 5'6" female should shoot identically if they both understand ballistics, environmental factors, and proper technique. The rifle doesn't care about the shooter's size. It only responds to proper fundamentals." She continued, "But there's something else. I teach students that limitations are often mental, not physical. When someone tells you that you can't shoot at extreme range because you're not strong enough to handle recoil, or you can't be consistent because you're too small to stabilize the rifle, those are excuses, not facts. Once students understand that, they stop limiting themselves based on what they think they can't do and start achieving what's actually possible." Morrison nodded. "That mindset shift is exactly what we need force-wide. I'm promoting you to Sergeant First Class, effective immediately, and I'm assigning you to develop the new Army-wide sniper curriculum. You'll be setting standards for all military marksmanship training." Over the following years, Evelyn's curriculum became the standard across all services. Her emphasis on fundamentals over physical attributes, on measurable performance over subjective assessment, created a generation of snipers who were more effective than ever before. She continued teaching, continued demonstrating, and continued proving that the best shooter in any room might be the person everyone underestimated based on appearance. 5 years after that day on the range with the mocking recruits, Evelyn was recognized as the master sniper instructor for the U.S. military. the highest position in marksmanship training. She'd trained over 1,000 snipers, influenced curriculum used by 15 allied nations, and fundamentally changed how the military approached precision shooting. At a ceremony honoring her achievements, General Morrison, now a 4-star general, spoke about her impact. Sergeant First Class Evelyn Jackson has revolutionized military marksmanship training. Her students consistently outperform traditionally trained snipers. Her techniques have been adopted by allied forces worldwide. But her greatest contribution isn't technical, it's cultural. She's proven that excellence in any military specialty has nothing to do with demographics and everything to do with knowledge, practice, and determination. He turned to Evelyn directly. You've spent your career being underestimated and then proving the doubters wrong. Every time someone assumed you couldn't handle a rifle, you responded by outperforming them. Every time someone questioned your credentials, you let your results speak for you. You've taught an entire generation of snipers to do the same, to ignore limitations others try to impose, and to achieve excellence through fundamentals and discipline. After the ceremony, a young female lieutenant approached Evelyn. "Ma'am, I'm headed to sniper training next month. I'm the first female in my battalion selected for the school. Some people have been discouraging, saying women can't handle the physical demands, that I'll wash out. How did you deal with that?" Evelyn smiled, recognizing herself in the young officer. "Use their doubt as motivation. Don't get angry, get better. Focus so intensely on mastering fundamentals that their assumptions become irrelevant. And remember, when you succeed, and you will succeed if you do the work, you're not just proving yourself. You're making it easier for the next woman and the next, until eventually gender stops being a factor anyone considers." She continued, "Those recruits who mocked me on the range 11 years ago, they learned a valuable lesson that day. Some of them are instructors now, and they teach their students to judge capability by performance, not appearance. That ripple effect, changing one mind at a time through undeniable competence, that's how you create lasting change." The lieutenant left with renewed determination, and Evelyn knew she'd succeed. Because that's what happened when talented people refused to accept limitations others tried to impose. They achieved excellence and inspired others to do the same. 10 years after that day on the range, Evelyn Jackson returned to the same base as a guest speaker for a new class of recruits. Among them were 3 women, unheard of a decade earlier when she'd been the only female shooter most soldiers had ever encountered. As she walked onto the familiar range, now wearing the rank of Master Sergeant and carrying credentials that filled an entire page, she noticed something had fundamentally changed. The recruits, male and female alike, stood at attention with respect that had nothing to do with her gender and everything to do with her reputation. The senior instructor, a grizzled sergeant major, introduced her. "Recruits, this is Master Sergeant Evelyn Jackson. She holds records some of you will spend entire careers trying to break. She's trained operators you've only heard about in legends, and she's here to teach you that the only limitations that matter are the ones you accept." Evelyn picked up an M24 from the rack, the same model that had started everything. She turned to face the recruits and saw something in their eyes that hadn't been there a decade ago. Pure professional respect, uncomplicated by assumptions. "This rifle," she said, her voice carrying across the silent range, "doesn't care who's holding it. It doesn't know your gender, your size, your background, or your doubts. It only responds to proper fundamentals, disciplined practice, and refusal to accept limitations others try to impose." She chambered around with the practiced ease of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. "Today, I'm going to show you what's possible when you stop listening to people who tell you what you can't do and start focusing on mastering what you can. Then, you're going to do the same, because that's how we build not just better shooters, but a better force." The shot that followed, a perfect hit at 1,000 meters in variable wind, wasn't just a demonstration. It was a promise that excellence was available to anyone willing to do the work, regardless of who said it was impossible. Because Evelyn Jackson had proven, shot by shot over a distinguished career, that the best sniper in any room might be the person everyone underestimated, right up until the moment they pulled the trigger and proved everyone wrong. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.